I was like, I want to de-risk it complete with you. I'll take all the risk on myself. I realized that actually caused more problems in the long term than it does in the short term. And then I wake up one day and I'm completely resentful, and it becomes toxic in the organization. You have to sell the dream. People forget what they're fighting for every day. What's the mission? What do I want? What are my dreams, right? You're just so in it that you can't see beyond the fog. And I think good leadership is about pulling somebody through that or clearing the noise and saying, hey, remember what's available here. Sometimes that's not your job, right? Like, I can't change anybody. They're responsible for their own actions, their own feelings, and I can't change anybody. My job is to be a lighthouse instead of like a flashlight. I want to show the way. People have to change themselves.
Welcome back to the Hitch Show. Today, I'm so excited, and I know we say this all of the time, but we have a very, very special guest. But I would be remiss if I didn't first bring in my co-host, Eddie. How you doing today, brother?
I'm good, man. I'm grateful. I'm excited. We've been talking about having this guest on for a long time. I've done a little bit of research on him, and just the little things that I've found are super exciting. So I'm excited to be here and dive in.
Yeah, man. So today we have the one and only Brett Young with Erb and Young Insurance. Brett, how you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic, man. Good to see you. Good to see you. It's a pleasure to be here. Always great to see you, Will.
Yeah. Likewise. This been a long time coming.
Yeah, I love that.
We met 10 years ago.
We're old, man.
Well, did we meet 10 years ago? I think I met your brother 10 years ago. Probably. I was introduced to Erb and Young 10 years ago, but we probably met a few years later, I think. Come to find out, we both started our entrepreneurial journeys kind of in the same path.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Prepaid Legal at the time.
Yeah.
Now Legal Shield.
Yeah.
And for those of you who don't know, that's a legal insurance company is the best way I could provide it. That's also a network marketing kind of model of what it is. And at that point in time, 10 years ago, your team was what, six people, and now it's 70?
Yeah, let's see. Legal Shield was 20 years ago. And then when we met with Erb and Young, running together, that was 10 years ago. So that was, 7 of us. 7 of us on the team. Yeah. And we still have, every single one of those guys is still here, and they now have, big pedigrees and big responsibility and are doing big things. And we still reminisce about those days a lot, which is really fun. So that's kind of the cool thing about building a business or doing this entrepreneurial thing, is the relationships that you've had, just like how we've met, and watching each other grow, and different market cycles and the challenges that come with that, and the accomplishments and the fun. But ultimately, at the end of the day, it's so cool to be able to say, hey, man, remember 10 years ago when we met, and kind of reminisce. I know we were reminiscing today before the camera turned on, so it's special.
Yeah, what do they call them? You don't realize they're the good old days until they are the good old days.
Yep.
Because I remember back then, I remember struggling. Like, I don't even know if you know this, but in 2017, I got hospitalized 3 times.
Wow.
Just stress, overwhelmed. I felt the pressure of building, and I didn't have the right tools or mechanisms that I used rather to manage the stress that I was dealing with.
Wow, I didn't know that.
And that's what ultimately led to me leaving the business in 2020. And I started the coaching thing, and I left mortgage for 3 years. And then I came back in 2023. Once I developed some different stress management skills and things of that nature. Yeah. But at that point in time in 2023, you guys exploded.
Yeah.
Like, you guys, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think your massive ascension really occurred when there was a lot of fear in the market during COVID, and people were pulling out, and insurance policies were harder to write. And I think your guys' commission structures were also pretty impacted, which caused a lot of people to say, I don't want to do insurance anymore.
Right.
And when most people leaned out, you guys leaned in.
Right.
Can you tell me a little bit about like that whole process and kind of what transpired there?
Yeah, sure. Well, I relate to the stress management. If you're doing anything that you're trying to accomplish something and you're pursuing something hard, it's difficult not to push it and redline it, and you create then you get older and you have certain tools to be able to combat it. It never goes away. You just get better at overcoming that. So that's still relevant today, and I relate to that. But yeah, I mean, during that period of time, it was, what what is it? When people are fearful, be greedy, and when people are greedy, be fearful. It's just, there's this opposite philosophy that I think is prevalent for anybody that wants to accomplish something, whether you're investing money or you're building a business or you're looking for a career change. I'll take an example, AI coming online now, blue collar jobs, it's you can make an enormous amount of money building a really good blue collar business, right? And so, but if you would have talked 5 years ago, something like, blue collar jobs, you got to get in technology, right? And so I think it's a good reminder that some things don't change because human behavior is the same. The markets are volatile, the markets change, but markets are a sum of human behavior. And if you study human behavior, then you can kind of predict patterns. And I think one of those patterns is in every industry, when it gets tough and it gets challenging, people hit the eject button. And that's what happened in our business. A lot of the carriers pulled out, markets started tightening, rates started going up, but commissions started going down, right? Any distribution system, I'm sure your business is the exact same, right? As soon as the companies that are manufacturing any type of product start to reach a limited ability to be able to sell those products and they have margin compression, the first thing to go is sales forces, right? The first thing to go is how we distribute that. So we sell and we service insurance on behalf of insurance companies, right? We're an independent agent. We represent multiple companies, but that's our value proposition. And when you don't want to sell insurance anymore, because it's not a matter of how many widgets you want to sell, it's a matter of just holding on for what you have, all of a sudden you don't really need the agents. And so they cut commissions by nearly in half, some of them. The only insurer that we had at some point was Citizens, which is the last resort through the state. And a lot of agents said this doesn't make sense. One, they were probably just getting by during the times when it was good. And then all of a sudden the wind changes and now you don't have a choice. You got to sell, you got to get out. So that's another example of make sure you fortify your house when things are good because the wind always changes. And so we just leaned in, man, it was less competition. So we were more focused on taking market share than we were about actually turning profit. So during that time period, it just became a blitz to grow top line. And it was hard, man, so you're trying to grow top line, you're hiring, you're recruiting, you're staffing, but your margins are nothing. And, I'm not a stranger to what that looks like. We started the business from scratch. Parents didn't have an agency. I didn't buy an agency. We literally started one policy at a time. A $452 homeowners policy that pays $42 in commission to the whole agency for the year. Just so we're clear. So I am not a stranger of getting, starting from the start. Yeah. But you're later in this business and all of a sudden your margins get compressed and you got to recruit at a high velocity. Not a lot of people wanted to do that. So the hard part was figuring out how to do it. The easy part was there wasn't anybody knocking on anybody's door. Like a lot of the agents were just holding back. They couldn't handle new business because service was so drastic because everybody's calling in about their rates. And so it was the perfect chance to go on offense, but it was the hardest time to go on offense. And yeah, we grew by, 40 to 80% year over year during those times. And it was good. Learned a lot of lessons during that time.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm curious to know the culture piece there and how are you driving action when there's so much fear in the market, right? Like with your team specifically.
Sure.
Because when you own the business and you built it and you, at this point in time, you've had it for over a decade, right? And, you're not going to just throw in the towel because I've been building this thing for the last 10, 15 years or what have you. I'm talking 2020 when all that, the compression, all that stuff starts happening. What does the conversation look like with your team to go on offense? And what does it actually look like in terms of activity for them to follow through on?
Compartmentalization. So like what happened was most firms were saying, okay, well, we're going to have one person do two jobs because we need to protect margins. And then your team members aren't able to focus on offense because they're playing defense as well. And so we just made a decision that we were going to make sure that we continued to segment the business so the team members that were set out to go on offense had the ability and had the capacity to stay on offense. So number one was just structure, to make sure that things are structured appropriately to where you're not leaning back on defense. You're still staying on offense. And then number two, there was a term that I learned from mentors before Erb and Young back in the days when I was in network marketing that I still believe to this day is you have to sell the dream. Like, people forget what they're fighting for every day. And not everybody is a dreamer innately. And so good leadership is about reminding people what is available tomorrow, right? If I know that tomorrow can be better than today, I'm willing to pay the price today. But through the muck and through the noise, you forget what you're fighting for, right? Have you ever had a week where it's just so tough that on Thursday you look around and go, what am I even doing? Like, what are we doing here? I forget what we're actually doing. What's the mission? What do I want? What are my dreams, right? You're just so in it that you can't see beyond the fog. And I think good leadership is about pulling somebody through that or clearing the noise and saying, hey, remember what's available here. And so where are the cheese moved? And at that point in time, it was, hey, if you can take market share during this time, regardless if you make more money or not, when the market comes back, you're going to be one of the few that did the work, and you're going to get all the benefit, and it's going to be an overnight success. And so it's just a constant reinforcement. And when things are tough, you're like, setting expectations. Hey, this is exactly how we said it would be. This is exactly how we anticipate it to be. Isn't this great? This is exactly what we want, right? Instead of saying, hey, it's okay, it'll get better. It was like, no, this is great. Like, when you walked into that lender's office, how many agents did you see? Oh, nobody. Well, did you ask them when somebody's been? They're like, no, people don't even come out anymore. It's like, exactly, it's perfect. And by the way, the market's gonna get better and this time period's gonna be over. So we would create urgency that said, you don't want this to end before you do what's required in order to get the results that you're looking for. So it's like, all of a sudden it became, oh wow, this is a moment in time, it's an opportunity, and it won't be this way forever. I need to seize this opportunity. Instead of saying, hey, just hang in there, it'll get better. Hang in there, it'll get better. So it's a reframe, it's selling the dream, and then it's also make sure you structure the business to where people are actually able to do what you're asking them to do.
That's what leadership looks like at Erb and Young.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously it fluxes, man. Leaders are just humans, and we all have good days, we have bad days. I have fears, I have anxieties, I have stress, I have insecurities, I have imposter syndrome, but I hope that makes me a better leader. I think sometimes people think that leadership is about having all the answers. Leadership is about being bulletproof. It's not. It's just about courage to me. It's about, like, I want to follow a leader that has the courage and the willingness to go do at a really high velocity. They have the experience that they've had some success, but they also have the humility to not pretend when they don't have the answers. Like, during this was happening, I've been through 2 of these cycles, but nothing like what just happened. I didn't pretend, and my partners didn't pretend that we had all the answers. We just knew that based on human behavior, if this is like any other market cycle, as long as the insurance business doesn't just go away, if it's like any other market cycle, this is what's going to happen for those that stay in it and do high velocity of activity. And so you're hoping and you're banking on that, but you're making a bet and you're just being transparent. Hey, this is the bet that I'm making. Come along the ride if you're willing to make this bet as well. So, this leadership game is a game of will, right? It's a game of, outlasting the competition. It's a matter of the game between your ears, right? Like, so I just want to show up every day with a willingness to do the work. And if I could show up with a willingness and a good attitude to do the work, I feel like that's infectious, right? Because, this game, I think Rod Erb, my partner, told me this a long time ago. It was great. He played on the tour. He caddied on the tour for a little bit for golf, and he would watch some of these guys come and go. And he goes, you know what the definition of greatness is? And I was like, oh, man, that's a good question. It's kind of loaded. I don't know. He goes, longevity. Success and longevity over a long period of time, right? And that, come back to the decade conversation we have. The leaders that I look around, especially like in Central Florida and other places, it's the leaders that have been doing it a long time. You know, they may have changed companies, they may have changed positions, they may have done different things, they may have sold a business, opened a different one, but they've been doing it consistently over a long period of time. Because to me, that creates trust, right? For leadership, I need to be able to trust this person, what they say, what they do. If I don't know if you're going to be around or you're going to change your mind or we're going to pivot all the time, like I can't trust you. And if I can't trust you, I'm not going to fall in line with what you're saying.
Right.
And that's always just stuck out to me.
Yeah. So I'm always curious because leadership it's so tough. It's so tough. In my opinion, it's tough, right? Because sometimes when you're leading somebody and you're trying to guide them, it's like, why aren't you just doing the things that you say you're willing to do for the things that you say you want, right? Like I think specifically to a couple people that I've led in the past.
Sure.
It's like you're falling behind on your bills. You're in a commission-only gig, right? And it's like, I'm willing to do whatever it takes. Okay, great. I will match your energy. Whatever you're willing to do, I will match that, right? You need support, I'll support you. You need help, call me, I'll be there. But I'm going to show up at this time. I'm going to work till this time. And I'm going to be in the office from this time to this time. And I'm going to do the work. I show up to the office. Where are they? Not there. And when they show up an hour or two late. It's like, it's commission only, whatever.
Yeah.
And it's like, it tracks back to what you just said. And because I've heard it said differently, but it's the same thing.
Sure.
Where leadership is the ability to cast a vision. But as a leader, and this is something that now that you're saying this, I realize that I have fallen short on in my past life. Casting a vision big enough that they can fit their vision inside of yours.
Sure. Yeah.
And
it's believable.
Right.
It's like, okay, this makes sense. Because if they do this, my life gets better.
Right.
Right? If it's not big enough, someone says, well, they might achieve it, but that doesn't move my needle. Yeah, it's a good thought.
And I'm sure you've had people who've left you and decided to start their own thing, just like any business.
Yeah, guys, I mean, we had 2 people quit this week, great dudes. Would they be here long term? I don't know the answer to that. But it's not sunshine and rainbows. And just because, you're doing all these things that you believe from a leadership perspective, it doesn't mean everybody's going to follow you. It doesn't mean everyone's going to stick around. It doesn't mean that it's going to be, it's totally the contrary. And that to me is the $1 million question right there. Why, it's back to the human behavior. Why does this person who says that they want these things just not commit to the disciplines that are required in order to get it? What am I not doing? Like, what am I not saying? What do I have to do? How do I get through to this person? Sometimes that's not your job, right? Like, I can't change anybody. Like, my job as a leader is not to change anyone, people have to change themselves. Like, they're responsible for their own actions, their own feelings, and I can't change anybody. So it's like, my job is to be a lighthouse instead of like a flashlight. Like, I want to show the way based upon my actions, based upon the way I live my life. I think one of the hardest things about leadership is that there's a microscope on you, and that you have to be an example, because good leaders are just good examples. And so soon enough, someone says, I'm ready to change myself, I'm ready to do what's required, and that person is a good example, so I'm gonna follow them. But when we try to impede our will or their will upon them, it just doesn't work. Like, there have been many people who have left the organization, or whether that's voluntary or we've had to part ways, simply because they said that they wanted something, but they weren't willing to do what was required, right? And there's 100 different reasons why that is, but I think it's one, they lost faith in the leader, right? And trust, so they don't trust the leader. Maybe things are changing all the time. Maybe they don't see the leader doing the thing. Maybe the leader hasn't done what they've done at a high enough level, so they don't think that they can help them. So that's fair. That's within our control as leaders. Secondly, they don't think that they're capable of doing it. Either they've lost, confidence in themselves, whether they're in a season of life where they don't think that they can, or they're just not willing to. right? You're asking them to do something that they're telling you that they're willing to do, but they're just not willing to do. I think the last one is the most prevalent. They're just not willing, but no one's going to tell you that.
Right.
Right. And I think subconsciously we suppress that anyway. Like if you were to ask somebody that, they would never tell you that. And they probably wouldn't believe that that's the reason. But most of the time it's like, and I think there's a lot of power in all of us there's a lot of things that we're not willing to do.
Right.
And it's almost like this ego thing. Well, I am willing to do it. It's like, no, you're not. There would be a lot of things that I would be doing right now, but I'm not willing to do them. I think there's cool power in having enough self-awareness to be able to admit that, because that's a leadership thing, because that's what you want. You want accountability. You want humility. You want to be able to be an example to somebody that says you're transparent, right? And it also puts the responsibility back in your court. And so as a leader, are you able to get people to take responsibility for their own situation? Or are they going to continue to point the finger at somebody else? And until someone takes responsibility and is able to say like, hey, this is going to be because of me, right or wrong. Now you can have an unlock with somebody.
Right.
Until then, it's just very difficult, because I don't know about you guys, but every day, my natural tendency is I want to blame external things as to why I'm not where I want to be or why things are happening. It's just a natural human reaction, and I have to battle it every single day. And somebody that's not conditioned that way, imagine that just becomes every day when you wake up and every day when you go to sleep.
Yeah. I mean, like as of today, what's today, 27th? Mm-hmm. March 27th? It's so easy to look outside and say, well, fuck, rates are tanking. There's a war happening, a war brewing, possible World War III. What's the point? Like, I'll just wait for it to resolve, and then I'll work.
Sure.
And then I'll do what's required. But it's so enlightening to me, because it's like, you talk about when the market compression or commission compression occurred, and there's policy companies pulling out, and you guys leaned all the way in. We might be in that season right now. Like that may be a huge opportunity right now to lean all the way in, because I'm guilty of. I mean, just this week, like, dude. Matter of fact, yesterday I got home around like 4:30, and I was like, I should probably hit the leads today. I should probably just dial some of those leads. Mm-hmm. Like, and I try to make sure I block out some time to do some cold calling, because it keeps me sharp.
I love that.
And if I'm doing it, then I'll have authority when I speak with my team and helping them. It's like, it's no longer theory. It's like, hey, it's still in practice.
Fresh reps.
If you're not practicing with live ammunition, like, and then you try to teach somebody to do the thing, it's like, really though? Like,
yes.
Picture this. There's people who've been in insurance for 40, 50 years even, right? Some of them don't write policies no more.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I'm brand new. I'm fresh in the business. I want to win. I want to be like, hey, I want to make my first $100,000 this year. It's like, what are you doing to get business? Well, what I did in my day.
Yeah. It's a thing. It's a thing.
Definitely a thing.
Oh yeah. I haven't written a policy in 4 years, and I have to be very cautious of how I give coaching, because because you're not doing it right now, right? Like, now I've done it at a high level in every aspect of the business. I've worked in every single position, so I have authority. But it's very different if you're in it doing the thing and you can directly give examples, or you could say, hey, you might want to consider this. This worked for me. Because if you're so matter of fact when you're not doing the thing, it's such a turnoff. It's such a turnoff. But that's the subtleties of leadership, right? I made a post the other day about it. It's like, The Dichotomy of Leadership is one of my favorite leadership books by Jocko. And because it's the most realistic, authentic depiction of what good leadership is to me. You have to be able to hold two truths at the exact same time, right? Like, I have to be confident, but not arrogant, right? I have to be curious to ask questions, but I can't be confused. There's these. I can be soft, but I still have to be commanding. I have to be aggressive, but I have to be patient, right? There are these subtleties of how you hold two truths at the same time, of how you interact with humans that dictate our effectiveness. And good leaders, in my opinion, understand this, right? If you're one way or the other, it's like a bowl in a china shop, like, right? There's just all this broken glass everywhere because you don't know how to navigate humans are complex units, right? We have personal challenges everybody walks in thinking, they all wear this huge baggage every time they walk into the office. They've got stuff with family. They've got people battling illnesses. They've got extended family. They have marital challenges. They have kids having disruptive situations going on at home. There's money challenges. There's all these things that are brewing with these complex humans that you're charged to lead. And if you're not empathetic to that and understand how to navigate all those dynamics, it's like walking into a room with landmines everywhere. And you don't understand why all of a sudden everything's blowing up around you. It's because you're not being very methodical and careful of how you navigate these complex, people. And leadership is one of the most complex subjects that you could possibly study. I think a lot of times we think, a leader is, you have followers, or you have people that you're in charge to getting the result. And there's all these different definitions. But leadership to me is just such a dynamic, ever-changing skill that encompasses 30, 40 other different skills. And the more well-rounded you are on all those, just the more effective you are. And it just takes a long time. Like you could be in a leadership position and be effective, but it takes decades to be a great leader.
Right.
And that is one of the big things I'm on right now is just feedback loops. And so like in leadership, I think if the bigger your team and the more you're doing, the faster you're getting feedback loops. And so you can have success based upon how fast you want these feedback loops to go. So I can take somebody for 5 years and they get a feedback loop every quarter, right? They're gonna have some sort of success. You do something, you get feedback, you make an adjustment. You go back to the same action. But if I get a feedback loop for that same thing every week, I'm gonna drastically compress the amount of time it takes me to have some sort of success. And so that makes logical sense when you think about that, right? Success compression. But the challenge with that is feedback is extremely uncomfortable. Usually feedback comes in ways that you don't enjoy it. It's not like, I got some feedback today. It's like the feedback is usually someone quit on you, right? Somebody's very upset with you. You didn't close the deal. You've got some sort of employment issue. You've got a back channeling going on with your team. There's miscommunication. There's a misunderstanding. There's all these different dynamics. These are all feedback loops. And you can either choose to look at it as, oh my God, I have all these problems. This is a disaster. This is too hard. Or you can look at it and say, I'm getting feedback very quickly right now. The person that gets the most feedback the quickest and has the ability to understand it and react to it and readjust is going to be drastically different 3 years from now than they are today. But that's very tough as a human, right? Like we don't like the feedback loops. But I look at it and go, this is great. Like I'm in one of those right now with our business. There's just a lot happening. And it just seems like there's something really, really good that happens every day. And then it seems like there's a disaster every day. And I look at it and go, God, this is crazy. Like there's things happening in daily increments that used to happen every 6 months back in the day. And I go, okay, then we're on the right track. Like that's good. That means there's a high velocity of things happening and I'm getting feedback loops quick. Am I gonna choose to look at that as poor, pitiful me, woe is me, which by the way, I do sometimes, we're all human. Or I have to reframe that to go, okay, I'm getting feedback here. What do I wanna do about it, right? And that's just longevity, staying in the game. Because if I don't do that, I'll drive myself nuts.
Right. Now, speaking of dichotomy, right, of leadership, dichotomy of how frequently do you need to hear negative feedback before you pivot? Like sometimes you can just get, and depending on who the source is, the feedback you might be getting is like, oh, well, that's just a Delio.
What a great question. That's a really, really good question. Let me do my best to answer that, but I don't think I have an answer for that, first of all, because to me, I think there's many things right now that are on the docket. And I think, first of all, if you're going to be a leader and you're going to make decisions, people are going to give you negative feedback. That's just the deal, right? Like, so you have to learn to filter it. I think that's what you're asking. Like, how do I filter out the information. For me, I guess through, number one, it's experience. I've learned what's real feedback and what's not real feedback. Number two is if it persists. And then number three, who's the source, probably, is how I would name that. If we've made a lot of changes over the last years through the market. I'll give you some examples just so the listeners can have context, because that's a really good question, and I'm still figuring that out. But like, we had to make adjustments when commissions got ripped, right? So compensation structures are built upon the fact that we're making 13% when we sell a policy, and now they go to 6%, right? Very difficult. In our compensation structure, it's very heavy front end with bonus and salary and how we do things, and then there's a commission rip on the back end. But it was disproportionate to where the market was going, and in order for us to continue to survive, we had to adjust that. You can imagine changing compensation gets a feedback loop real quick, right? It's the last thing you want to do as a leader. But when faced with those decisions, it's not really a hard decision. It's just a matter of being able to execute it in a way that is feasible to morale. The feedback loop in the beginning was extremely rough. You're getting negative feedback. And over time, as you showcase how I always sell the dream, showcase how you can win in this market, have conversations, build trust, right? I'm not just making a decision and sitting back. I'm making a decision and then I'm leaning forward to help people. You start to realize that people who are getting it are having success, right? So now you start to see a pattern. Okay, they're winning. Okay, they're winning. Okay, they're winning. There's still a small group that's not winning, and that are blaming it on the compensation structure. But it's not everybody anymore, right? There's a pattern that's occurring. So for me, I'd take that feedback loop and go, okay, the direction in which we're heading is a good direction, right? I like the decision that we made. This was a good choice. Now I've got to work with these other people that aren't necessarily here. And either they're going to get it or they're not. If they don't get it, that's okay. But I'm going to be cool with that. I'm going to be cool with that decision that we've made. There have been other situations where we've made decisions and you're getting that same feedback loop, and then you don't see the pattern. You don't see the success. You don't see the positive trend. And you're continuing to get that feedback loop, and you're not seeing that it's getting better. Then you have to look in the mirror and say, okay, did we make the right decision here? And that's tough because your ego wants to say you made the right choice, right? But we have to be aware enough to know, like, okay, this is not getting the result that I was after. And whether right, wrong, or indifferent, whether it's the team I have, whether it's the individuals, whether it's the decision, whatever it is, it's not working. And if I'm not getting the outcome, well, then I got to go back to what we have to do to get the outcome, and I got to reevaluate the decision. So I don't think you know until time persists, but I'm looking for when I get the feedback loops, I'm looking for a pattern that showcases that I'm getting closer to the result that I was looking to get.
Gotcha. In terms of I guess working one-on-one with your teammates, what's like the standard of practice when it comes to like self-development at Erb and Young? Because I have had I've been in real estate for about 4 years now, and last year for me was terrible. I had to go back and do some of this nasty self-reflection that nobody likes. Mm-hmm. And I came back with some real heavy hitting answers. It's all because of the choices that I made. And at the end of the last year, I had a choice to make. I was like, okay, am I going to keep repeating these loops that I'm in at a much grander scale because I'm going to keep putting gas on the fire? Or am I going to go back to the lab, adjust some things, and do some actual work to develop myself? And in that process, I did this whole identity thing with Gil. It was an identity workshop. My word for that identity workshop is I am undeniable. So that was like my moniker for this year. In doing that, I also did a lot of self-reflection, a lot of meditation, and I came back to the center of pretty much where everything is for me, which is I have, my issues at home. I have my issues at work. I have my issue, all the daily things. But underneath everything is this one voice of criticism that sounds kind of like my childhood, and it tells me I'm not enough. And then from that place, going through I didn't want to look at it, but then I forced myself to look at it. Coming out of it, I was like, okay, if this is here and it's been here the whole time, what do I need to do to either get it out or reframe it or do something so that it's not the seed from which everything I grow spawns.
Right.
And for me, one of the things that I've been doing is making sure that every single morning, instead of waking up from lack, instead of waking up from shame or any other emotion that comes from that little seed, I look at it, I acknowledge it, and I'm like, not today. We're not gonna do that today. And then I do my little 10, 15 minute setting to reframe, and then I have a completely different day. So with that in mind, like, what is it that you guys do for personal development to kind of foment that? Because that is a very personal journey for everybody.
That's a cool question. I bet that's been a fruitful journey for you.
Yeah.
I've done, that's and I don't think it ever ends, honestly. But yeah, it's a great question. Kind of our mantra is we're a personal development company that happens to sell insurance. I mean, I got into this business because I loved the development side of this game. I think business is a spiritual game. Like this is my vehicle to be able to excel and create this stair step to my highest and best. In doing so, I can help more people. I can make an impact. I can be more fulfilled. I can have a more fruitful life, right? Like, so the question becomes, that's really important for me, but that's not always important for the people that are coming here to get a career or have a job or do something that they just want to get in the insurance business, right? And so when you tell somebody we're a personal development company that have still insurance, they look at you like, I don't even know what you're talking about. What does that mean? I don't get what And so I think one is you got to meet people where they are. I think early in my career, I would blow people out of the water because that's really important to me. And I would sometimes impress how important that is to somebody else. And it's not fair, right? It's personal to me, and I think it's valuable, and I think it would be very helpful for people to lean into that. But that's a very personal choice on their end. So I think one is I could be the lighthouse, and I can showcase how it's made an impact in my life and how I'm continuing to do that. And at some point, we all have these days of decision and these tough moments that show up. And when the tough moments show up, life shakes us, and we look around and say, hey, there's got to be some sort of tool to be able to help me, because I can't keep doing what I'm doing. Like, this isn't working. And personal development is that for me, right? Like, and so I want to be there, and I want to be an example to where when that shows up for somebody, I have a tool that they could use. It's like a life preserver. I'm not going to make somebody get out of the boat and hang on to the life preserver, but I am going to throw the life preserver by the boat, because if they fall out of the boat, they're going to grab onto it. Does that make sense? So I'm just going to be there. I'm going to be there, and I'm going to showcase an example, and I'm not going to push. But what we do is we read 10 pages of a good book a day, right? And I learned that from Prepaid legal days, man.
Jeff Olson.
Absolutely. And by the way, we give people the slight edge from Jeff Olson when they get hired. And it's, the slight edge is I do the simple disciplines every single day that seem to not make a difference at all. But over a long period of time, they compound to either success or failure, right? It's the little disciplines that we do that seem to not matter, that do matter. And that is the basis of personal development, right? Like, so we give people that book, and then we it's one of our core commitments in the company. We read 10 pages of a good book a day. Now, do people do that? Absolutely not. They don't, right? They're like, I'm not doing that. You give me the book, maybe I'll read the book, maybe I won't. I'll read it to impress you because I just got the job, but this whole personal development thing, I don't know what you're talking about. We do a bi-weekly call, a personal development call. We've been running it for 15 years, and we get on for 30 minutes. Somebody hosts it, and we go through a book, and it's just by chapter, by chapter, by chapter. And so this is about meeting people where they are. They can get on the call even though they haven't read the chapter. You're supposed to have read the chapter and get on the call, but most people don't read the chapter, they just get on the call. But that's okay, because they're hearing and they're listening, and we're having discussions, and it's like, okay, I'm listening, but I'm kind of Not, again, it's just a little bit of forward progress. They're seeing what this looks like, right? Inundated. Culture to me is organized groupthink, like a set of behaviors that happens in a set of people without anybody talking about it, because that's just what we do. And so if you condition people to be in that type of environment, it becomes more normalized, right? If you're in an environment where you're in a pit and everybody's making cold calls, you're just gonna cold call.
Right.
But if you're in a pit and nobody's making cold calls, you ask somebody to cold call, it's not the culture. They're not gonna make cold calls. And so, one, it's communication, and we're continuing at 10 pages of a good book, 10 pages of a good book, 10 pages of a good book. We're gonna give them the tool, which is a book, and we're gonna encourage them to read. We're gonna give them a platform to be able to participate. And then we're just gonna do that over a long period of time. And what ends up happening is people won't do it. Then they get into a crisis. They're not being successful. They ask for help. We say, hey, how many books have you read? They say none. And they say, well, what would it look like if you read a book on this particular subject? Can I read it with you? Maybe I'll buy them the book. I'll write a note in it that says I care about them and I want them to be successful. This was a book that was impactful to me. I'll give it to them. They might start and journey, and all of a sudden now, they're reading. And so a lot of these guys, when they first started with us, they didn't read anything. And now they're consuming content, they're reading books, and they're accelerated their careers. But that hasn't happened overnight. It's just like you, where you come into a situation where you're met with friction and you say, okay, I gotta reevaluate my situation. I just want that to be a resource available to them when that happens, because usually we don't make changes when things are good, we usually make changes when things are tough.
Right. Mm-hmm. So the environment that you guys create is always there, so that when they decide to show up, hey, welcome, we've been waiting for you. Yeah,
100%. I think I view business and human development like I want to create this stream, right? This downhill stream. My job is to create these checkpoints down the stream, this system, this ecosystem, this environment, right? All you got to do is get in, and it'll take you down the river, right? Some people don't want to get in. They'll walk down the stream, like they'll get in when they want to, and they'll get out. Like, that's fine. That's not my job. My job is not to dictate them. I don't throw them in. They have to make the choice to get in. But I want to create, and where I spend our disproportionate amount of our time as an executive level is, how do we create this stream or this river to where if people get in, they're safe, they have fun, and they're going to have success. And so establishing kind of those ways for people to participate in that, these environments, is where I spend most of my time, not convincing people that it's good for them.
That's awesome.
Have you heard Tom Brady's definition of culture?
No, but I bet that's awesome.
Oh, man. Well, it was actually really, really simple, but it made a lot of sense to me. I'm actually going to see him in May.
Really?
Supposed to see him. I was supposed to see him last year in May.
Oh, that's cool.
And then he canceled. So I saw Kevin Hart instead. But he's going to be, hopefully, God willing, Tom Brady is there, because that's like, he's my Michael Jordan to me.
He's a lot more free these days, so.
Yeah, but the thing with Tom is, like, I wanted to hate him when I was younger. Of course, you know what I mean? Like,
because he wins.
Well, also because I'm a Raider fan, and when we had our highest probability of winning Super Bowl, we had the tuck rule game.
For you.
Yeah, AFC Championship, it was a fumble. They created a new rule. You know the tuck rule game, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. And anyways.
but what's funny about that, before you say that, it's like, that's another example just for a leadership perspective. It's like, everybody hated Tom until he retired. And then everybody loves him.
Right.
So it's another example, like if you're moving, you're getting attacked. Like, the world doesn't like winners until the winner is done. And then they go, man, that was an incredible winner. Like, anybody who's ever achieved anything is usually significantly disliked, significantly backlash, significant negative energy towards what they're doing. And then when the smoke's cleared, they're either perceived as an enemy or a hero, right? When you're in it, you don't know if you're the villain or the hero, honestly. Sometimes, especially when you're in leading teams, some people think you're the hero, some people think you're the villain. It's tough. Sometimes I go home at night and I'm like, man, am I on the right track? Because this person hates me. I think I'm doing the right thing, but it can be confusing sometimes. So that's cool with Tom, because now everybody loves Tom, but everybody hated Tom.
Yeah, well, thankfully I started appreciating him before he retired, and I think that just came with maturity and getting older.
Yeah.
Because when he left the Patriots, I was like, I wanted him to win in Tampa, and he won. But anyways, he said culture to me is really simple. Do I care about what we're trying to accomplish. For every individual person on that team, right? For them, it's winning a Super Bowl. Right. For your team, it might be just some kind of goal of certain premiums serving X amount of families, whatever the case may be. Do I care about that? And number two, do I care about the people beside me? And that's it. And that's how he sets the culture around him. And so he does it by, obviously, have you heard the story with him and, was it Rodney Harrison? But when he first joined the Patriots and he got drafted, he's a pudgy, and it might not have been Rod now that I'm thinking about it, but he was like a pudgy, very unathletic looking. If you saw a picture of him, have you seen his draft photo? Yeah. That's not an athlete. When you look at it, that is not an athlete, right? But he starts showing up. So first day he goes in, he gets the keys to the kingdom rather, right? And he goes in and he's a backup quarterback. He's nobody important, but he shows up like that first day. It was like 6 o'clock in the morning. And at that point, I believe it was Rod. It might not have been Rod, but one of the teammates was like, "Oh, what's this guy doing here? Like I show up first." Normally he was showing up at 7 o'clock and he's the first one there. And he's like, day one, he sees this backup quarterback showing up before me. He's like, no, fuck that. Like, I'm the guy who shows up first because our first team meeting's not till 10:30. So he's like, all right, next day, no problem. I'm going to show up. Next day, he shows up at 6 o'clock. Tom Brady's there. It's like, what the fuck is this? Next day, he shows up again, 5:30. Tom Brady's there. The next day shows up at 4:30. Tom Brady's walking out of the gym, full sweat, throws a towel over his shoulder. He goes, have a good workout, Rod. And he's like, who the fuck is this guy? And what it did for him is, the interesting thing was, it was just Rod for a long time, for years, until Tom Brady started doing it. And he was a backup. Within 2 weeks, everybody was showing up by 7 o'clock.
Wow.
When before 7 o'clock was the first one in the building.
Dang, what a cool story. Well,
so cool. And like, what's interesting is like, he changed the culture before he was the guy.
Yeah.
Because who was the guy in front of him? They just gave him a big contract. Wasn't it Drew Bledsoe? Drew Bledsoe had the contract. He had the deal. He's the guy. Like, you're not going to replace him. He just got a huge contract. Then he gets injured. And then the opportunity presented himself. Yeah. But he'd already shifted the culture before that happened.
That's amazing. He's already the leader. Yeah, he already had the respect of the team, already had the trust, which is half the battle.
And it's worth noting, I think, like, when I look at you, okay, I'm very impressed with how you communicate. I'm very impressed with the fact that you're in great shape as well, because I think there's a lot to say about how you take care of your body, because it's very easy to let that part go. And that's like, really, as a man, especially, because you got BBLs and all this stuff now. As a man nowadays, like, that's one of the things you can't buy. Yeah. Like, you can be successful in business, be overweight, and then, you can drop the weight, but it's not going to give you the muscle. It's not going to give you the abs. It's not going to give you all those different things. You can't outsource it.
I love to say that.
But when I look at you, it's like, oh, impressive. When you look at Tom, not impressive. And one of the strengths of, hey, because you're impressive, it's easy for me to like believe in you. But when you say follow me, it's also easy for me as a follower to say, well, I can't do that because look at what you have. There's a guy by the name of Vin Yang. You know who that? You ever heard of that guy?
No.
I bought his course. Here's the reason I bought his course. He's a communication coach. And I wanted to get better at speaking in front of rooms and things of that nature. And, he started popping up. My algorithm started feeding me his ads. And I'm like, oh yeah, that was good. But then I looked at him and it's worth saying that I am Asian and he's Asian. Okay. But stylistically, like the way they dress and stuff, I wasn't a fan of how he was like. He looked like an anime character. He had the big glasses, like the spiky hair.
Oh yeah, I know who he is.
He has like depending on what he's wearing.
Cool dude.
And the stuff I'm seeing is like very flamboyant colors, like all this stuff. I'm like, not my cup of tea. But I like the way he communicates. So I didn't buy his course. I just kept getting the ads. I'm like, man, that was really good. And it made me. It taught me something, because I ended up buying his course. And here's what it taught me. The fact that he was so unimpressive to look at, all right, it sounds kind of fucked up, but because he was so unimpressive to look at and I wasn't impressed off of a first impression,
right,
by his style or whatever the case may be, he was so effective that I bought it anyway. And I think that influenced my decision more than it did if you were impressive. That's because it'd be easier to fall back and say, of course Brett could do it. I mean, look at him.
Yeah, love that. There's another thing in that would be interesting to hear your perspective on is how much of being genuine plays into that conversation for you? When you look at somebody, or when you're reading somebody's or buying somebody's music, have you ever been in a situation where someone's telling you things that sounds great, they look impressive, but for whatever reason, it just doesn't seem genuine?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
And you can't put your finger on it, but you're like, you look impressive. Everything you're saying, I agree with. You can actually communicate fine, but something's off. I just don't know if I trust that person.
Yeah.
I think about it and I look at that and I think to myself, he's very genuine. Like I look at him, it's like, he's so quirky that you're like, he's very genuine,
right.
you know? So I was just wondering if that, you know, is ever, you know, if that's a thought process that ever go through your mind in a situation like that with that.
Oh, I think that it's a combination of a lot of different things. I think the fact that he's very, he's super quirky, but he's also very open about the fact that like all of his flaws, all of his weaknesses, and he's so genuine. I think it all plays into it.
Yeah.
But I think I'll give you a perfect example since you're asking this question. Yeah, Erica Kirk, don't trust her. Yeah. But like, and you start looking at, you know, you could feel it, right? Yeah. Sometimes you could see it, and like now I start diving down the rabbit hole and I have other reasons for why, but just something about it felt off to me initially.
Yeah, we have this sixth sense as humans. You know, people say if I can't see it, touch it, feel it, doesn't exist. Well, intuition is a thing, and you can't touch, see, or feel that, right? There are a lot more senses than the five senses, and intuition, I believe, is one of them. But I think this is, I'll tell you a story. Matt Eckberg. Matt was our first team member. He now runs the very close, if not the biggest operator office in our system. And so he's out in St. Pete. He runs that office. He's got 4 or 5 team members. He's done really, really well. But he started at $10 an hour, and now he's he's worth over 7 figures. He's done really well. Great dude, very good agent, but really good leader. And I remember when he got first charged to lead the team here in Orlando, because he started here in Orlando. He started leading the team the way that Taylor, my brother and partner, led the team. So Taylor's the leader. He steps out. Matt steps in. And so he's doing everything as if he's Taylor. He's modeling what he learned from the leader before him. And it just wasn't clicking for him. It wasn't working. And he's struggling. Like, he's just struggling. He's like, this leadership thing, I don't think it's for me. And I remember I was having a conversation, and he's like, I'm doing all these things that Taylor did, like exactly what he did. I was like, but you're not Taylor. Like, the concepts are right. The message is right, but you have to do it authentically to you. If you and I sit down and we're having a conversation about performance, or we sit down and we have a conversation about, what you want out of life, if I'm not genuine to me as a person, I'm not going to be a good leader. Some leaders use humor, right? Because humor is how it works. He's like that, right? Yeah, I'm more serious. If he approaches somebody the way that I approach somebody, they're going to be like, why is he being weird?
Right.
Like, why are you all of a sudden change who you are because we're doing this leadership thing?
Right.
And I think, to your point, I think this sixth sense people pick up a lot of times is leaders that are genuine. And I think we want to model people that we respect, we like, and that we highly regard. But I think it's a dangerous slope when we try to mimic.
Right.
Because all of us have something unique to be able to give. And that authentic music that comes from your soul, from who you are, when you're real genuine with people, is infectious. And people gravitate towards that. And so your genuine self is always better than mimic anybody how good. You could have the best in the business. Mimicking them exactly the way they are is never going to be as good as being your authentic self. And so I told him, I was like, hey man, you're not Taylor. Do it your way. Lead your way. Take the same concepts, same philosophies, same things, but do it in a way that is genuine to you. Overnight, started having success. Overnight, started getting traction. I mean, I'm talking overnight. 2 weeks in, he's like, oh my God, like breakthroughs. And the team would never say this. They would never even know that it's true. But for some reason, they're going, this is just weird. 1 minute you're our peer, next minute now you're a leader, and you're acting weird when you're telling me like we need to rally the troops, you know what I mean? Like, why are you acting different? And I think for young leaders, it's so relevant. It's so prevalent. We want to do a good job. And we think this leadership thing is this identity we have to step into. No, you have to step into the identity that's so much bigger than just the leader, right? You talk about identity work. I'm an NLP coach. I've been studying that for years. I still do today. Big fan of identity work. I'm not stepping into an identity of a leader. A leader is just a derivative of who I am as a person, right? I've just been charged to get the result. Leadership is a set of skills and someone who's charged to get the result. But I'm not pursuing being a identity of a leader. I'm pursuing to be the identity of Brett Young at my highest best self, right? And I think sometimes it's like, hey, you've been charged to be the leader. It's like, okay, I have to become this different person. It's like, no, you don't. The reason you got tapped on the shoulder to be the leader is because you're already worthy. You're already good enough. You wouldn't have got somebody who saw that in you. Like, just be you. Just be responsible for the result. And I think genuine is a big key component to being a leader that I think a lot of people miss.
That's really good. I'm assuming you're a student of John Maxwell.
Big time.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. So he says a really good thing, which is you can't lead somebody till you find someone, right? And there was another coach.
Is that about mentorship?
It's about leadership, just in general. Same thing in my mind.
Sure.
And there's a lot of parallels, in my opinion, between sales and leadership. I believe sales is leadership and leadership is sales.
I love that.
Because I attended
it's influence.
That's all it is.
It's influence. And both of those fall under influence. Yep. Yes. Love that.
You know who Garrett White is?
Yes.
Garrett J. White. Okay.
Yep.
Have you been to one of his events?
No, but he's dynamic.
I want to go to one of his events. Yeah. But it's funny you say about like the genuine thing, because I attended a funnel hacking live event in Tennessee a few years back.
Yep.
Incredible event. There was like 3,000 people there. And I remember he has a segment, and he's the only speaker who speaks at every funnel hacking live since funnel hacking live was ever a thing. I don't know who the guy is, but I remember I'm walking in from the back of the room, and this guy who I don't know who he is, he's getting introduced by Russell Brunson, and the crowd's going berserk, right? And I'm over by the booths, like by the entry to the door, and everybody's and he walks in and he goes, I remember he stands straight up right in the middle, no words. He points at each section. Everybody shut up. Everybody sat down. And I'm like, who's this guy? So like I scurry over.
Hell of an entrance.
Oh my God. So I scurry over and I'm like, I got to take notes. Like, he commanded a room without saying a single word. So one of the things he teaches is like just internal stances. An internal stance, genuine, like if your intent is in the right place, people will follow.
Yeah.
Right. But you still have to have the skills. You still have to have the things that you guide people through and the know-how to deliver it.
Sure. But the essence of where that starts is intent.
Yes.
Right. And if I understand what it means is like you should draw peace and confidence from knowing that you already have the most important piece, which is where you stand is a place in which that is worthy of being followed.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And a lot of people consider him like a leader of men. I mean, his program is Wake Up Warrior. He basically
I do have that book.
Yeah. Fuck.
Yeah.
That book. Yeah. But he's like a leader of men, and he teaches men how to have it all, right? And my introduction to him was him basically saying, who here is going to be on this stage next year as a 7-figure earner? To get in the 2 Comma Club award. 3,000 of 3,000 people raise their hand. Yeah. And he's like, okay, who signed up for 2 Comma Club coaching? Now, this is a coaching program that it's a $30,000 program at that point in time. Everybody's hands went down. And he just picked somebody random that's like nearish the front row, but probably like 5 or 6 rows back. And he goes, you. He's like, are you going to be on the stage next year? He's like, yeah, I'm going to be on the stage next year. He's like, okay, did you sign up for 2 Comma Club coaching? He's like, no. He's like, well, why not? And he starts telling him his stories, all of his reasons, everything. And what was so remarkable was that he handled and crushed every objection this guy had live in front of 3,000 people it wasn't even his topic he was supposed to have. He asked the question, he found the silver lining, I guess you'd call it, and then he went deep on it.
Yep.
And crushed this guy's objections to where at the end of it, he's like a 26-year-old kid. Ends up getting up, walking to the back and filling out the form and signing up for the $30,000 coaching. And I was one of the people who signed up for the coaching. Because I was like, what the fuck just happened? But it didn't happen in a way that it was like, it felt dirty.
Sure.
It felt slimy. It felt like...
His intent was to help you get what you want, but you're confused.
Yes.
You're confused. And let me help you.
Right.
I know you want this, so let me help you because you're not putting the pieces together here. And I would be remiss in not doing my job if I didn't expose this reality, because you're never going to be able to accomplish what you're going to accomplish if somebody doesn't have the confidence to have good conflict.
Right.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, and it is a $30,000 sticker right there on the back of it. And if I'm him in his situation, I understand why he would sign up for the coaching, but he went over all of his finances. He went over everything live in front of everybody, which requires a ton of vulnerability, first off.
Yep.
And still made that decision to make it happen. And
it's amazing.
I think...
And that is leadership.
Right.
And you could say, well, that's sales. But it's the same thing, because as a leader, someone's going to make excuses and give me reasons why they don't want to do certain things, even though you know that's going to help them, right? They've told me their intent, they've expressed what they're going to do, and they're not doing the things that you know are going to help them be successful. And so as a leader, one of the definitions of leadership is my ability to get you to do something that you wouldn't have done unless I was involved, which in essence is influence, right? So I look at that, that's a perfect example. Whether you're leading somebody individually about showing up, on time, like you were saying earlier in this conversation, or whether you're looking to get somebody to take action on some sort of sale that they necessarily are reluctant to take action on. Influence is such an artful craft, and doing it in a genuine way that doesn't seem slimy. If you could say, why is that not slimy? Why didn't that seem sleazy? You probably have a hard time pinpointing some sort of technical aspect. Because at the end of the day, it comes down to that sixth sense, which is that intuition that this person cares, that this person's heart is in the right place. Like they genuinely are doing this for the right reasons. And I don't know how to teach that to somebody other than just start with your heart. I have my coach, he's an NLP coach. I've been working with him for 5 years, every single week. It's just incredible. Since I've worked with him, my net worth's tripled. Our business has exploded, and I've just become a better man. So I relate to what you're saying a lot, because I don't know if there's a better development work that you can do. It's extremely hard. It takes vulnerability. And it's painful at times, but it's so worth it. He talks a lot about being able to connect to the heart rather than the mind. And I'm just now starting to understand what that actually means. And to me, that's what it means to lead with genuineness, right? Instead of me thinking all the time on this logical side, what skills do I have to deploy? What's my action steps? What sequence do I have to do it? What's my demeanor? How do I do this? Like that's all just mind up above the shoulder noise, instead of just leading with my heart, right? It's like, I need to have this really difficult conversation. Oh, I need to hit these points. I'm going to do it with this. I'm going to write out what I'm going to say. And that's all mind, right? It's all head. Instead of just sitting down and just being genuine from the heart, right? And more focusing on the connection with the person that you're talking to, instead of making sure that I hit all the bullet points that I need to say, right? Somebody that goes in and hits all their bullet points, the demeanor in the music, in the vibe in that conversation is going to be so much different than somebody just sits down and has this just genuineness of connection and leading with their heart, right? Now, how do we combine that in a way that makes it even more effective? But is the tail wagging the dog, kind of, right? I have to check myself all the time, because I sometimes have a tendency to lead with my head, because I'm being strategic, and I have to remind myself to come back to this. I've never gotten in trouble when I'm leading people by leading with this.
Yeah.
Never. I have gotten in trouble when I'm leading people by leading with this. This is ego. This is the soul. And somebody can feel that. And the greatest leaders that I've been around that I want to follow, they lead with their heart. They don't lead with their mind.
Oh, yeah. Got to do a heart check first.
Yeah.
Yeah. Love it.
I want to talk about really quick, kind of bring it down to Hollywood, because I love movies. We love talking about movies and their influence on us all the time. And I remember watching a reel of yours, and you were wearing this Top Gun shirt.
Oh, man.
And I also saw you have a very impressive collection of bourbons in your office. So congrats. I love bourbon. But you also have the big poster of the original Top Gun on there. So what's kind of like the influence that movie's had on you? Because I could tell that there's something.
That's great. Well, so that's funny. So on the one side of our office, there's a couple executive offices, and one of those is Mr. Matt Main. He's the vice president of our agency distribution, and that is his office. And I have some bourbon in our office, but that guy's got the giant shelf.
It's a whole corner.
And so, yeah. But we had a summit 3 years ago. So we go, and obviously we get away for like 3 days. It's our annual leadership summit. We take the whole company there for an offsite retreat, and we did Top Gun one of the years. And it was the client experience. And it was a simulation of Top Gun flight school for the whole company, but around the client experience, right? And so it was this theme that it's not the plane, it's the pilot, meaning we can make all the excuses as to why we don't have the best technology, we don't have all the carriers, we don't have as much resources, you don't have this, you don't have that, right? The plane. But, in Maverick, he has that old school plane that he gets in and he still wins at the end, right? Where it's about the pilot, not the plane. So that was the theme there. And that always just resonated with me because there's always somebody who's got a bigger, badder plane. There's always somebody that's got something you don't. But what can I control? I could be skillful with how good I am as a pilot. And I think it was just in that season at that time, it was just so relevant for us as a team to buy into like, what can we control? Like, am I utilizing, I don't know about you guys, but every single piece of technology that you use, do you utilize it to its fullest? No, it's so hard, right? Like I bounce around to this and there's this new thing. And it's like, how about being resourceful and being the best that I can be in the plane that I'm in? And man, that was one of our best summits that we ever had. So we actually had some guest speakers that we flew in and we dressed up. Rod Taylor and myself had flight jumpsuits. And we went and picked them up at MCO at the airport. And so we held their names and we were in full jumpsuits with aviators standing in the airport waiting for him to come out of the flight. People were like, what the hell are these guys doing? And these guys come down the elevator. It was one of the greatest scenes ever. Got it all on film. I got to send it to you guys. But that was just, we like to, I'm a huge movie guy too. I like production value because production value is how we engage and how we learn. I think it's immersive. And so, it's dramatic. It's awesome. What guy doesn't like, Top Gun anyway? And I think it was just a really good metaphor for where we were during that time.
That's an amazing metaphor.
Yeah.
That's exactly where we're at now with all of this AI stuff coming out every single day. Now it's not every week. Every day is something new. So cool.
So obviously this show wouldn't be the it show for independent thinking if we didn't maintain the ability to think for ourselves or think objectively and change our opinions on things. What is one thing that you believe maybe 5-10 years ago that you knew was an absolute truth that you no longer believe today?
Oh, God, what a question. God, that's such a good question. What have you changed your mind on? It's great. Well, number one, I think changing your mind is a superpower. I think back in the day, one of my worst fears was changing my mind because that means I'm somewhat wrong or that I didn't have the answer. So first, I would say that's a really cool question because I think the longer I've been in this game, the more I realize that I don't know. It sounds cliche, but it's true because you could have two truths at the exact same time. It just contextually it depends on the situation. One of the things that I'm high on right now is that I used to think the more I give, in essence, if I'm going to get behavioral change in an organization, I could just give, and people will see where I'm coming from, they'll see where we're coming from, and they'll appreciate that, and we'll get the result. Although I believe that giving has to be disproportionate to what you get out of it. That is not necessarily the case when you're leading a large organization. There's a level of human behavior that exists. And so now when I'm going to give something, I'm going to give something that's significant, but I'm going to have an ask. Just like if I'm in a sales call, I'm going to give, but I'm also going to have a small ask. Because over a long period of time, what ends up happening, especially when you're leading people, you'll give, there's no ask, and what will end up happening is you find yourself in a place where you resent your team. And then you don't show up for your team the right way. And then you start to create a divide. Then it starts to impact culture. I will meet somebody, I will go 9 steps, but they have to come 1. Like, there is no, I'm not going to do it for you. Back in the day, I would do it for them because I was insecure. I didn't think I could get the result. I wanted people to not figure out that I was a fraud, that I had imposter syndrome, I was like, I want to de-risk it complete with you. I'll take all the risk on myself. Just be here because I really want to make this happen. And now I realize that actually caused more problems in the long term than it does in the short term. Because what ends up happening is you break the leader, you break yourself. You talked about earlier as far as the stress is concerned of how that works. I've gone through many of those. And usually it's the result of me disproportionately giving because I'm insecure and have imposter syndrome. And then I wake up one day and I'm completely resentful. And it becomes toxic in the organization. So now I've changed my perspective on that. And I'm not afraid to ask. And so I still want to give because it's my heart, but I know that if I don't ask, I'm not really leading people because they're not going to be able to get to where they want to get to, and we're not going to be able to do what we're going to do unless they're willing to come part of the way as well. And so to me, it's a much more authentic way to lead. Whereas before, I thought I was doing it out of the goodness of my heart, but really what I was doing was out of the fear of being found out.
That's powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah. That makes me think of, the movie Hitch with Will Smith?
Yeah.
When he's trying to teach Kevin James how to kiss, he's like, you got to go 9/10 out of the way.
Don't go all the way.
And then just let them grab their last. Oh, dude, that's so good.
There you go.
I love that.
There you go.
The difference there is if you go 10, you're kind of a predator.
Yeah.
Yeah. You need consent.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
The slight difference between being a G and a predator, it's a slippery slope.
That's so cool. So
Yeah.
Brett, when people want to reach out to you, they either want to work with you or they want to get their insurance with you guys, how can they find you, connect with you, all that stuff?
That's great, man. Well, ErbandYoung.com, ERB and Young. Erb is one of my partners, Young, that's my brother, myself, so it's the 3 of us and 70 other awesome humans. So you can always go to the website, check us out. Where I'm really vocal, I guess, digitally is on Instagram and LinkedIn. I love LinkedIn. So, I'd love to connect with you, and talk shop, but, and then probably anywhere that there's real estate business being transacted, I'm sure you'll see one of us there. So I would love to come up and say hi, say that you saw us on the podcast. We'll chop it up. And there's one thing that I love more than anything else it is the collection of awesome human relationships. There's just nothing better than that, especially in this business. And it's a perfect example of us being able to reconnect and have longevity of all the time that has passed. So, but I appreciate the opportunity to be here, and it's great to meet you as well, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for your time.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.